proposal, and maybe if you could kind of talk about some of those issues.
Yeah, let's keep it really loose. I mean, I'm going to go through my normal spiel, but please stop me at any point. If Lauren's already explained everything to you and I don't need to sort of blather on, just stop me and ask questions. But I'll launch into kind of what Big Ideas is all about, why it was created. I'll go through sort of the timeline. I'll talk about eligibility, and I'll talk about the pre-proposal application and what all that entails. Does that sound okay?
Yeah, sounds great. Thanks, Philip.
But please, stop me at any point, because I tend to just ramble on if nobody stops me. Okay, so Big Ideas really started on our campus, the Berkeley campus, in 2006. And it essentially came about because there was a gentleman who worked for our chancellor, and he had students coming up to him all the time with these wonderful ideas, but very minimal resources, very minimal access to funding. So he went out and he pitched the Omidyar Foundation, which is the founder of eBay, Pierre Omidyar, got a little bit of funding, and then just started doling out this funding to students who had great ideas. Then it turned into a single semester white papers competition, essentially, from 2006 to 2009. And then from there, the Blum Center, that's who I work for. By the way, I'm Philip Denny. I manage Big Ideas. The Blum Center took over the management in 2009. And what we did when we took over the management of it is we really looked back at the history of Big Ideas. We talked to a lot of students, and we asked them, what could we do to improve the competition? And the number one thing overall was that there was no shortage of good ideas, but students needed more help developing those ideas. They wanted to get support and resources for getting ideas out of their head and onto paper. And primarily from 2006 to 2009, Big Ideas have been largely a graduate student audience. Most of the applications that won awards, won funding, were graduate student proposals. What we've seen over the past 5 years, since we changed this into an academic year-long competition with lots of resources, which I'll talk about in a moment, is that we've seen a lot more undergraduates get involved, a lot more students getting involved earlier in their academic careers, which we really like to see, because the earlier you can start to take a risk, the earlier you can start to take on challenges, the earlier you can start to think about yourself as an innovator, the better off I think everyone is, both globally and individually. So Big Ideas, the mission statement is, we provide funding, support, and inspiration to interdisciplinary teams of graduate and undergraduate students who have creative ideas to improve society. We really want students to think creatively, think very broadly, think at the sort of boundaries of their imagination, and really begin at that ideation stage. We're not looking for, previously launched, scaled up social ventures. At this point, we're really looking for new and creative ideas. I want to launch you into just a PowerPoint here. I'm going to take you to a slide in a moment. Let's see. Here we go. So tell me if this doesn't work, but in a moment you should be taken to a screenshot. You can take into hyperspace, and then you'll get into a screenshot.
Yeah, we're there.
Okay, great. Boom. So now you should have a full screen, right? Okay. So as I mentioned, and again, please stop me at any point if you have a question. Big Ideas is an annual innovation competition, funding, support, and encouragement to interdisciplinary teams of graduate and undergraduate students who have big ideas at solving important social challenges. So I actually have that memorized. Our contest categories this year are clean and sustainable energy alternatives, conflict and development, creative expression for social justice, food system innovations, global health, improving student life, information technology for society, mobiles for reading, open data for development, hooray, scaling up big ideas. So you'll see that some of those categories are in red. Those categories in red are the ones that are open, that are eligible for student teams from William & Mary and from all the Higher Education Solutions Network campuses. The Higher Education Solutions Network is a consortium of 7 different campuses, like MIT, Michigan State, William & Mary, Duke, Texas A&M, McCarry in Uganda, and UC Berkeley. So any student from any one of those universities I just mentioned can apply to these categories in red. If a William and Mary student wanted to apply for improving student life or one of the non-red categories, you basically have to look on the website, find out which campuses are eligible, and then partner with a student from an eligible campus. Does that all make sense?
Yes. Yep.
Okay, great. But so each one of these categories is sponsored by a different organization, center on a specific campus or something else. Conflict and development, that's a category that's sponsored by Texas A&M's Conflict and Development Center. The Food Systems Innovation Challenge is sponsored by the University of California Office of the President and a center here on the Berkeley campus. Global Health is sponsored by the Blum Center, who I work for. Mobiles for Reading is sponsored by the USAID's All Children Reading Grand Challenge. And then Open Data for Development is sponsored by our good friends at Aid Data. So all these categories, though, have a different sponsor and all have different eligibility rules. And so you really need to review the web page for each category, and we'll get to that in a moment as well. But just going over the categories again that are open to HESN, open to William and Mary. The one that we're talking about the most right now is Open Data for Development. This is a category that challenges students to develop a plan that leverages publicly available data sets to address important social challenges in the development arena. So projects may focus on several areas, including but not limited to mapping visualizations, transparency and accountability feedback loops, crowdsourcing tools, monitoring and evaluation applications, spatial analysis. Now, this category last year was a little bit more broad, but this year it's specifically looking for international development-focused projects. As I'll mention probably 16 times in the next 5 minutes, the deadline is November 13th, 12 p.m. for pre-proposals, and we'll get into what that entails in a moment. The other categories, conflict and development. Develop a proposal that will prevent, mitigate, or help resolve conflict in a fragile or conflicted area. Food systems innovation, which is a new category this year, where we're hoping students can develop proposals to encourage the development of innovative solutions that address challenges and lead to improvements in global food systems. Global health, students are going to be asked to develop an action-oriented interdisciplinary project that would help alleviate a global health concern among low-resource communities. Mobiles for Reading, which is a new category. Develop novel mobile-based technologies and innovations to enhance early grade reading scores for children in developing countries. And then I already mentioned Open Data for Development. So those are the 5 categories. And is everybody here thinking about applying to Open Data, or are you looking at other categories in particular?
They're actually looking at the global health category. We had some discussion about the Open Data category, mostly centered around, if for some reason, as they dig into their kind of initial research, should there not be enough material in place for them to really execute a good strategy with global health, then that could present an opportunity for the Open Data category, but we'll get more into that as we go.
Gotcha. Okay. So the next slide is actually going to take you into a video. It's a 3-minute video. Gives you a background of big ideas. You don't have to listen to me for 3 minutes. And it really just gives you a good overview of the competition and shows you a few of the projects that have come through Big Ideas in the past and won awards. What I want to point out before I launch you into the video is just pay attention to how very diverse and broad the ideas are that come through Big Ideas. There's not one great sort of plan or program that comes through Big Ideas. They're very varied in sort of how they present themselves. So here we go.
What makes an idea big?
I think what makes an idea big is that it goes outside the normal boundaries.
I think what makes an idea big is the potential for its impact in the community.
It's novel, it's unique, it's challenging, it's exciting.
The Big Ideas program seed funds and encourages student innovation for a better planet.
Undergraduate students are rarely recognized as producing innovative, cutting-edge ideas.
It doesn't take a lot of money. It doesn't take a lot of, it doesn't take a 5-year PhD research project in order to do some of these things.
heard about the Big Ideas program and it was brought to our attention as a group, and thought, hey, this would be a really great opportunity to kind of get the word out about our projects and see if we can get some support.
And it ends up being much more than a grant because it gives you that confidence to go forward. The fact that there's other people in the room and other people at Cal that are reviewing this and thinking, hey, you should go for this.
Having it was like one of the best things for our project. It really got us off the ground at a point where we needed that extra inspiration.
Yeah, knowing that the campus is supporting projects like this and you have access to these resources has been very instrumental.
Just the fact that Big Ideas existed and seemed willing to fund a project like this gave us hope. Because our budget for dental is actually like under $200 a semester, and we saved the residents of Berkeley like probably $50,000 to $100,000 just through the services we have.
Capitalize on the creativity of the students. Don't tell them the solution. Give them the opportunity and let them come up with creative ideas.
We should disabuse ourselves of the idea that all smarts are with the professors. Students are just as smart, they're just younger, that's all.
We created a business plan for Big Ideas. So it really gave us that push to really follow through on this and give up our investment banking and consulting offers that we had. And as soon as we got the news that we had gotten the grant, I think that's the first time we said, hey, let's give up what we were doing and let's follow our passion.
The power of the small grant is that it allows students to experiment earlier in their lives. They don't need to wait to complete a PhD and get a faculty appointment to try something new. I think that's very important. Otherwise, we waste a whole kind of generation just waiting for the credentials to do something that they have some capacity to do earlier.
What makes an idea big?
I think what makes an idea big is that it goes outside normal boundaries and it really kind of surpasses what was already there and sets a precedent for something new.
Okay, did everybody hear that all right?
You came through great, Philip. Thank you.
Okay, did anybody recognize the Back to the Roots mushroom guy?
No.
He's our local reality TV star. He was on The Bachelorette and then he was on Wipeout. So. Just in case anybody was interested. Okay. So next, we're going to go on. We're not going to show the video again. There we go. So what you probably noticed in that is that, as I mentioned, there's lots of different big ideas. They're very diverse in sort of the range of topics they take on and how they eventually implement them, whether it be through a social venture, a nonprofit, a service organization, a organized business, a for-profit business. The mushroom kits, the Back to the Roots guys, they were both undergraduates in the Haas School of Business. The Suitcase Clinic was a bunch of social science undergrad. The solar water heater folks were mechanical engineer PhD students. So multidisciplinary. They also had other members on their team from different disciplines, but very different types of projects, and that's basically what this slide shows you as well. So let's get in a little bit into the contest rules and what makes teams and students eligible for the competition. So to be eligible, I showed you the categories. Some were red, and those are open to William and Mary. But at least one member of each team must be a matriculated student at an eligible university to enter the contest. So you're allowed to have other people involved in the project. You're allowed to have faculty advisors. You're allowed to have nonprofits advising you. You're allowed to have external partners. But those folks should be playing an advisory role for the project. We want Big Ideas projects to be student-initiated and student-led projects. Number 3, student teams may submit an application to one category per idea. So if you have a great project, if you have a great idea, and it falls in two categories, you have to pick one to submit to. You can't try and take that one idea and submit it to two different categories, even if it falls into two different categories. That said, if you have two great ideas and one falls into global health and the second idea, a completely unique idea, falls into food systems innovation, you can apply to that. You can apply to both of those categories with two different ideas. Student teams cannot seek funding from Big Ideas for projects that have previously won a Big Ideas award except for the Scaling Up category. That applies to the one William & Mary student that actually won an award last year. And the team lead, this is important, when you designate a team lead when you apply on the web form, that person is going to be the main point of contact for all of our Big Ideas communication. They're going to have final say in terms of how you get your funding, should you be awarded a prize, all that kind of thing. That's just one disclaimer. But the important points there are that you have to have one student from an eligible campus, and ideas should be led by the students, initiated with the students. So the timeline for this year is that right now we're in the pre-proposal stage. The contest launched on September 2nd. We're currently going through the pre-proposal stage, and during this stage we have lots of different resources. We do information sessions like this. We have one on October 9th that we're doing again on the Berkeley campus. We have one on October 14th, which will be a webinar. So if you want to tune in and hear me again, you can do that. We have writing workshops, which we will be webcasting live. And Lauren and I'm going to talk to you, Lauren, hopefully about setting one up specifically for William & Mary students later on down the road.
Okay.
But we will have webinars on October 22nd and November 3rd for writing workshops to go through the nuts and bolts of how you put together your proposal. We have some events here on the Berkeley campus, such as Innovators at Cal and an Idea Generation Dinner, where we do some networking and try to pull together some student teams. If you're looking for additional team members, I know there's a Facebook page, I believe, for William & Mary, and we have a Facebook page and social media here too. So if you're looking for a student, if you're looking for a student from another campus, just contact us about what type of student you're looking for, your sort of a job scope, and we'll help publicize that for you. And then the night before the deadline, November 13th deadline, we have an editing blitz where we will have remote advising going on. We will have students on the Berkeley campus dropping in to see us just to get last-minute tips and feedback on their proposal so they can hone it in the final hours. But coinciding with all of this over the next month and a week, we have open advising hours, and we love talking to students, so I would recommend highly that every one of you schedule time with Lauren, schedule time with myself, or any one of our Big Ideas advisors. I'll show you where on the website you can go to find our advising times. But for students from other campuses, just shoot us an email at bigideas@berkeley.edu, and we'll work with your schedule. We'll try and find an advising time, and we'll talk you through whatever challenges you're facing with your proposals or questions you have. The pre-proposal deadline for the third time. Pre-proposal deadline, Thursday, November 13th at 12 noon Pacific time. So that's 12 noon, so that's 3 p.m. your time, right?
Yeah.
Okay. I'm not very good at math. Next. So if you make it through the pre-proposal stage, and just to give you a scope of what happened last year we had 187 pre-proposal applications representing more than 600 students. 52 of those made it through to the final round. Those 52, all 52 teams, were paired with a mentor, and they worked for 8 weeks from mid-January through mid-March with their mentor to begin to work through their proposal, hone their proposal, take into account all the feedback they receive from judges, and that's another thing that all proposal applicants get is about 8 to 10 reviews from judges of their proposal. So you get great feedback to work with your mentor on it during the final round, and that's from mid-January to mid-March. And then the full proposals, which are 10-page full proposals as opposed to a 5-page pre-proposal, the full proposals are due March 10th, 2015 at noon. Then we have some events at the end where students can win additional funding. We have a People's Choice video contest, and we had a William & Mary student win that last year at the Recreation House. And that was $2,500 on top of the award they won for the prize in their category. And then we have a grand prize pitch day where the top 6 teams from across the country, from across the competition, are invited here to UC Berkeley, and they're allowed a chance to pitch for an additional $5,000 award to their project. So just stepping back a bit, the average Big Ideas award for the written proposals, the full proposals, is $5,000, the average award. Prizes can range anywhere from $1,000 to $10,000. So that's basically what you're working with in terms of the award limits. And then, but if you win both your category and you win $10,000 for your category and you win pitch day, you can get up to $15,000. Okay. Now we have proposal elements. What goes into your pre-proposal application? Pre-proposal applications are about 5 pages long, not including references. We ask first for you to fill in some web form information. That's where you designate your team lead, you put down some of your team members, a brief summary of your proposal, things like that. All of that information is considered sort of public information. If you're concerned about intellectual property, when you attach your pre-proposal application as a PDF, you can keep all the proprietary information in the PDF and just give more general, neutral information in the web form, which will be more public information. So there's a title. There is a project description, which talks about what does your project look like, what is its potential for impact, and we're looking really at just the first year of implementation. We recognize these as being sort of seed funding, 1-year award. So all of your proposals should talk certainly about what you're planning to do in that first year, although you can start to go into what your long-term sort of vision is, but your concrete plan should be about the first year. Number 2, we ask for a need statement. That should convey an understanding of what the problem is that you're seeking to address, what other types of interventions are out there that have been attempted in the same area, what succeeded, what hasn't worked, and why, and then why your proposal, why your project would sort of exceed where others have failed or surpass other technologies that are out there or other services that are out there. So that's an important thing, and it's an area where a lot of students miss, is really knowing the landscape, the environment in which they're working in, and knowing sort of the other line of products that may be attempting to address the same solution, the same challenge. Then we want a 1-year timeline, just going over sort of step by step how you would implement your project if you were given funding. We want some team bios, and really what we're looking for is not all the extracurricular activities that a student is involved in that aren't related to the project. What we want is, do you have the team in place to implement the project if you're given funding? So things that are very relevant to the project implementation. It's not necessary at this stage in the pre-proposal process to have your team in place, concrete. What you have to know, though, is if you don't have a web developer on staff, or not on staff, in your project, and you know you're going to need that type of person, just acknowledge that in your proposal. Talk about your plans to recruit somebody. Talk about where you're going to look, or put it into your budget. Do something to acknowledge the fact that you know you need that type of person to implement your project. But we don't have to have every team member in place during the pre-proposal process. And then last but not least is a 1-year budget. And I'll go in a moment to our website and walk you through where you can find our budget template so that you can use that. But the budget, you can request up to $10,000 in funding. Some projects need $30,000 to $40,000 to implement. And if that's the case with your project, what you need to do is you can request $10,000 from Big Ideas, show how you would use that $10,000 from Big Ideas, and then in the revenue section of the budget, you would sort of address that budget gap, the funding that you don't yet have. How would you go about getting it? Would you go through crowdfunding? Would you go through in-kind partnerships with partner organizations? Would you look to other means? So basically, you can address that in the budget. Any questions at this point?
No, it all sounds great.
Okay, great. Then I'll just keep going. Okay, so pre-proposals are very heavily weighted on creativity. In this first round, what we want to know are the projects new, are they innovative, are they creative? So when you're writing your proposal, you should really be thinking about that. How is your proposal adding to creativity? Number 2, we want to know, does it address a pressing social issue? Those are the biggest things to Big Ideas in the pre-proposal round. Creative solutions to address a pressing social issue. To a lesser extent, we want to look at that budget, and that's worth 10%. Is your project viable? 10%. Have you put it into a real professional quality? Is it a well done, well written proposal? So that's 10%. And then there's, for each category, there's a category specific question that's taken straight from the prompt for each category. So if you read the category for global health, the category description, you just want to know, have you read that, and does your proposal really sort of center on that challenge, that category? And that's 10%. Now, when we get to the final round, this really gets sort of flipped on its head. We know by that point all the proposals in the competition have been deemed to be creative, that they address a pressing social issue. So for that final round, should you make it to the final round, we're really looking at viability and impact. Will your project be viable? Will it have impact? Can it be sustainable in the long run? So think about that later as you get to the final round. Okay, I won't go through this, but this is just to show you that students who come through Big Ideas, the funding is an award. It's not a grant. So essentially, students win this money for developing their idea over the course of the competition. It's not for the implementation of the project. But what we've seen is that students, after they go through an academic year-long competition, even though they're not mandated to implement their project, most of them do because they spent a full year developing their project. So we polled about 6 months ago our 2012 winners, and 27 of the 28 winning projects from 2012 were still continuing to work on their big ideas, either as students, still working on their ideas. Some had turned it into a full-scale social venture. Others had graduated and were working part-time on their project, but they were still vested in their project. 96% of students reported that big ideas significantly positively influenced their career trajectories, and 30% won at least one additional award on business plan or business plan competition after participating in big ideas. And that's really important because that's what we hear from students all the time, is that students get into the competition because they see it as a way to get some funding for their projects. What we hear after students win awards is that the validation factor, after going through 2 rounds of judging, after getting all the reviews, after being acknowledged as a winner of the Big Ideas competition, you can take that to investors and you can use that confidence that you've developed when you approach investors, and it makes a big difference. So we hear that that validation factor is as big, if not bigger, than the funds itself. That's something else I just wanted to point out. And then last, before we go into the website, is my contact information. And I urge you guys, please contact me at any point, bigideas@berkeley.edu. Set up an advising appointment, ask a quick question, whatever you need. We want to be here for you. We really pride ourselves on helping students through this entire process. And we're really sort of new still into the expansion to other universities, but if you have ideas on how we can improve it, let me know. If you just have a question, let me know, and we want to help you all along the way. So with that, I'll stop again and ask, are there any questions?
All sound good.
Okay. Let's just go in as if we were looking at the website for the first time. So the website is bigideas.berkeley.edu. You've probably already been there. You can find the rules and requirements right here. It lists all those sort of eligibility requirements that I mentioned, proposal application requirements, talks about all those different areas. So if you fell asleep while I was talking, it's still all right here. And then you'll see a list of all the categories over on the left-hand sidebar. So let's just click on Open Data for Development. All the categories are pretty much set up the same way, where we have sort of why we are offering this category, what is the issue that we're seeking to address. We have the challenge itself and what the challenge is all about, what the category is asking you to come up with in terms of a solution. We have the eligibility requirements, which I mentioned. So we would look here, and obviously William and Mary is represented in the eligibility for open data. But if you were looking at another category, you could find a student from one of those other campuses if William and Mary wasn't represented to partner with. And then we list our great sponsors like Aid Data and the U.S. Agency for International Development and their higher education students. So when you're ready to apply, when you put together your proposal, or when you want to start your proposal, I should say, you can click on the big Can't Miss It Apply Now button. That'll take you to our WiseHive web form where you log in, create a username and password, and you can start to work on your application here. You can save it as a draft. You can come back to it later. Just remember that by November 13th at noon Pacific time, you have to have applied. But you have the ability to go in and save it as a draft and work sort of as a team if you want to just hand out your password to other people and work on it as a team, collaboratively. A couple more things before we're done is resources for applicants. I mentioned that we have drop-in advising hours and advisors. We have a lot of different advisors. We have some graduate students who focus on different areas, and all their areas of focus are listed up here in their drop-in advising hours. For students from other campuses, we would encourage you just to email us down here at bigideas@berkeley.edu and set up an advising appointment. But scroll through these. You can talk to me as well and just send me an email at bigideas@berkeley.edu. And we want to set up a time and talk to you and work quickly through your proposal. I mentioned the budget template. We'll see if this actually downloads for me. It's right here. There we go. Okay, so the budget template, which is over here, you can see you have both a projected expenses section, and then this page 2 is projected revenue. So you would put in your budget for, if you're requesting 10K, you would put that up on the first page. And the projected revenue is on the second page. Most people can condense this into one page, so it only takes up about one page of your 5 pages for your proposal application. So this is a budget template that we recommend everybody use. It's not, you don't have to use it if you don't want to, but it's to keep the judges from being confused when they're looking at proposals or looking at the same one. Okay. And then I guess I'm trying to think of what else I need to show you before we're done, but I think that's about it at this point. Does anybody have any questions? I'm going to pop back on the screen here in a second. And yeah, in addition to that, I'm just trying to think. I showed you how to apply. We talked about additional resources. You know where to find me. Does everybody have a better sense of what the competition is all about?
Yeah, definitely.
Okay. Any other questions?
Thank you for going over all that. Really appreciate it. I'm sure, because I know from my perspective, you know, I only know what I read off the website, so there are even a couple of things that help me in terms of understanding the proposal a little better and how to advise a little more. Would you be open to kind of hearing a pitch of what they have started working on and maybe give some initial impressions?
I would love that. I think that would be great.
Okay.
Awesome. Okay. So this is something that we have come up with in the last 36 hours. So we wanted to try to focus our idea towards the global development category. And we've met with a professor who helped us kind of frame the problem. So I guess our problem that we would like to address, the global health problem, would be early pregnancy. In the context we're looking at a couple of different countries, but right now we're focusing in Nepal, and then possibly Uganda as a backup, because we have experience there, and AData has a really good relationship in Nepal. So those are our two contexts that we're pretty much working with. The solution that we've come up with, our big idea, is sort of like a girls' club that combines mentoring and community building while also empowering young women to identify and solve problems in their own community. So it would be kind of clubs that would be organized by either older girls or women who would also, we would like to provide sexual health education within those clubs. So they're getting out into the community, serving their community, but at the same time receiving sexual health education. So sorry.
No, keep going, please.
Okay, so the emphasis is on girls looking out for each other, serving each other in their community, and then I guess sort of not surreptitiously giving them health education, but it's not the additionally, It's not like it's not the overt focus of it. It's like sexual education because that's not really appropriate in either of those contexts. So it's just a different way to go about it. Laura, did you want to add?
Yeah, so, I mean, I'm just like kind of we were thinking about different ways that girls can like come together and like have a community with each other, and like how a really great way for people to do that is to become involved and like invest and give back. So we wanted to focus on that while also providing education and help. So
I I didn't hear the end of that. I heard somebody else's voice come in there for a second. But number one, I'll say that the judges seem to like Nepal. The project that won the grand prize last year was a project that focused on child nutrition in Nepal from Texas A&M. They won the grand prize last year. So you're on the right track just going into Nepal, I think. But number two, the things I would urge you to think about as you're developing that type of proposal is number one, landscape research, which I mentioned previously. Have other interventions like that happened in that area, in the region that you want to work in? How successful have they been? Why did they fail? Why did they succeed? Why does yours surpass it? That's the number one thing I definitely want you to look at. Number two is sort of the risk assessment, and be honest with that, because judges love an honest risk assessment. Like, what are sort of the social mores? What are the sort of social conditions in place? And would that type of intervention be welcomed? Would it be, are you going against established cultural patterns in those communities? How would that work in that context? Whenever you're talking about sexual health, reproduction issues, especially sometimes in low resource communities, there can be stigmas or cultural conventions that go against, right?
Yeah.
So you definitely need to consider those two things when implementing those proposals.
Okay, well, to answer your second point, I think the way that we were going to frame it was as a preventative measure against teen pregnancy instead of overtly sexual health education.
Yeah.
So that's how we would address kind of the cultural challenges that we might run into. But thanks for your feedback. That's really helpful.
But it sounds like a really exciting project. It sounds like it's perfect for global health. Yeah, I think it fit in perfectly into that category.
Great. Thank you so much.
And you said you have contacts in Nepal and people who are working there already?
Yeah. So we're actually applying for a different grant through William & Mary to try to travel there over winter break, and maybe get on the ground, get some experience, meet some more NGOs. We actually have an orphanage that's willing to let us stay there, and it will probably happen.
Yeah, we're hoping to stay just outside of Kathmandu, and then we are contacting different NGOs involved in this issue there, and hoping to go shadow some different people while we stay there. And then we'll be staying hopefully with an orphanage there that has also some adolescent girls and things, so we can talk to them about what they go through and things like that.
Near Kathmandu the whole time, though.
Yeah. And so even, we're really interested in pursuing this project even if it doesn't fit big ideas. So we're looking at other avenues as well. But yeah, we're very excited about it. So.
Well, it seems to fit big ideas, and if you want me to put you in contact with the winners from last year, maybe they would be a good sounding board in terms of it's a child nutrition program, but they've been working in communities in Nepal. I think they were in far western Nepal, but maybe there's some overlap there. I'm sure they know that Kathmandu and the region well, because they probably have to go in and out through there.
Yeah, that would be incredible. We'd love to talk to them about it.
Yeah, can you shoot me an email, big ideas, and I'll try and connect you two by email.
Yeah, I'll send it right now.
Okay. That's really cool. Okay.
Do you guys have any logistical questions about kind of how to get from idea phase to any of the components of the proposal at all? Does any of that seem?
No, not really. It seems pretty straightforward. I think almost. One question that I do have though is I'll be in Berkeley the week before the proposal is due. Would there be an opportunity for me to meet in person with some advisors, or?
No doubt, as often as you would like to. Yeah.
Okay, great.
Let's set up shop in our office. We don't mind.
Okay, awesome.
Yeah, we're at Blum Hall. So it's going to be the week before?
Yeah, the weekend before. So it's the 7th through 10th, right? Lauren will be there too. It'll be a party.
Well,
Oh, you're there for TechCon.
TechCon, yeah. So I know you guys will be really swamped, I'm sure, but we'll see.
That works really well, and we're gonna. I'm gonna be around. I'll probably see you at TechCon anyway. So.
I'm sure.
Perfect.
Okay.
Can you tell me again what's the makeup of the team? Where are the students hailing from in terms of discipline?
Okay, well.
Okay.
Public health.
Oh, public, okay.
I'm your
Okay. And that's a great multidisciplinary team. No questions there. You got that piece of your proposal nailed.
Okay.
Perfect.
Thanks. Awesome. Thank you so much for making that. This is really great.
Okay, yep, we're always here, so please holler if you need us for anything.
Really appreciate your thought, and we'll touch base soon.
Okay, thanks, Lauren.
Okay, thanks.
Bye.